Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good
Y'all know
morning.
what time it is. I have a very special guest with me this morning, Miss Saria Ivy, y'all. She and I have met along the way here in these 2022 elections here in the great state of Georgia. Good morning, Saria.
Good morning, Tamara. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good,
Thank you.
good, good, good. So this is gonna be a great conversation this morning. So y'all put your seatbelts on. might the
Right?
ride, the ride might get a little bumpy, but put your seatbelts on. But she and I are gonna dive in. Saria and I have a mutual friend, and shout out to our mutual friend that suggested that we talk. And I was so glad that she did. Saria, you ran for Congress here in
I
Georgia.
did. Did.
Yeah.
Fourth district.
Mhm. Tell
Did that.
everybody about the fourth district and your race here in Georgia. But before you do that, introduce yourself, sweetie.
All right. Well, as she said, my name is Saria Ivy. I did run for the fourth district congressional race in Georgia that covers the DeKalb area, Rockdale, Newton. Seat is currently held by Hank Johnson.
Mhm.
Felt the need to get into the race because to put it succinctly, and I'm just going to be transparent, I feel like there's a lack of common sense in politics now. It seems as if
Mhm.
everything is all about agendas and ideals, and it's not about the people. I feel like there's some real serious situations that our citizens are having, and they're completely ignored for arguments. And so I felt like that it was important that someone who had history and strategy and execution get in the race and see if we can't deliver some results to the people. So I got into the race there, and of course, as everybody's been watching the news, we have uncovered even more issues in our political arena, and so I'm continuing the fight.
Yeah. And Surreal, let's before we dive into all of that, the meat and potatoes of it all. Surreal, you ran as a Republican
I
in the
did.
fourth congressional district, which is predominantly black here in Georgia.
Yes, but see, color has nothing to do with political views. I mean, like I tell people all the time, I'm not black and ashamed of it. I'm not black and can't help it. I'm black and I love it. There's everything about my culture that I think is fascinating and fantastic, and I want everybody to know about it because we are a
Mhm.
cool people.
Mhm.
It doesn't have anything to do with your color. It has to do with your philosophy about life and how you feel things are best accomplished. Now, I've been a Republican my entire life, and I have no desire to change that whatsoever. But that has nothing to do with the fact that everybody, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or an independent or I don't care, you want the exact same thing. You want to be able to send your kid to school where they get a quality education and they're safe. You want to
Mhm.
make sure that you are able to get in communities where it's safe and not overrun by gangs and not overrun by potholes and dilapidated buildings and things of that nature. You want a nice community to live in. Everybody wants that. The differentiation between Republican and Democrat is our belief in how to get there. But at the core of us, we all want the same thing. We want our piece of the American dream. Some of us want to rewrite it the way that we want to. And you know what? That's your business. That's your right. You can do that. You know, we just want, at the core of every human being, we just want to be left alone to accomplish our dreams. Don't get in our way. Don't hinder us. Don't create pitfalls. Stop the drama and the madness. Let me live as I feel that I should. And that has nothing to do with political views.
Okay, well, let's stay there with that because the fourth congressional district is predominantly Democrat. How about that?
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is. They have handed it to me. Do you understand? They have. I've been called everything from a white supremacist, which is an oxymoron in itself, to a Uncle Tom, which I'll take that because if they know the story of Uncle Tom, that he took a lot of abuse, did some extra stuff just so our people could get free. So I'll take that. Just don't call me a Sambo and we won't have no problems. But it's like that's okay. You know, I think that but what I found, I'll be honest, I did not go into the fourth district wearing the R because what I felt like, and the reason that I decided to even go in there is because there's such a misrepresentation, and some of it falls on us as Republicans. There's such a misrepresentation about what a Republican really is.
Mhm.
and what we really believe and what we really think. Some of the things that I have read and I've seen and I've heard hurled at me is not even fundamentally true about what we believe. But you have to kind of take a look and see every lie in order for it to stand, and that lie has stood a long time. It has to have its roots in the truth. And if we refuse to acknowledge the truth of certain things, then we're never going to get above it. And the real truth of the matter is the representation of our party is not a true reflection of who we really are. And that's the reason I decided to run. It was an impossible feat. I knew it when I got in there. But if you don't take the stand and actually declare who you are and stop allowing other people to define you, there will never be truth. There can never be reconciliation because we're all one America. It doesn't matter if you agree with me on every single issue. We still got to live here. And yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So let me ask you. So stay with me because I don't think people what you and I understand. That is a solid blue Democratic district.
D27. It's as blue as it comes.
Yeah. So what was your thinking? Like, how do you penetrate? How do you reach the people where they can hear you beyond the R? Because they knew you were a Republican. So
Oh yeah,
beyond,
there's no doubt. I was on the Trump video of I was on the Trump team. You can't get much Republican to that.
so tell me, what was your idea? Like, how were you going to reach these people, black people, particularly black people that, I'm going to tell you on the campaign trail, there was a lot of times, Saria, even before I even could tell people my name, the first thing they would say to me,
Are
"Are
you a
you a
Democrat or
Democrat?
Republican?
Are you a Democrat?"
Yes.
That would be like my name is, "Are you a Democrat?"
Are you a Democrat or Republican? Who are you? That's the first question.
That's all I got across the board. So that is, again, how did you, as a candidate, what were you thinking? How were you going to penetrate that district?
Well, I really didn't go into the district with the intent of defending my stance. That wasn't that's not how I went. And I'll be honest, the way that I do everything is by authenticity. You're either going to
Mhm.
accept me or you're not. I'm not, it's not what you call me, it's what I answer to. And I think a lot of what um caused me to develop the relationships that I did in the district is because they could see authenticity. One thing that is for sure is when you get into politics, everything becomes a strategy.
Mhm.
And anyone who's dealt with me any amount of time, strategy is for situations and ideals. It's not for people. You need to connect with people. I didn't go in that district with the idea of I'm going to defend the fact that I'm a Republican. Democrats are all wrong and you just all need to just join my bandwagon. That's not how I went into the district. I'm a mom. I am
Mhm.
a wife. I work every day. I know what you go through. And I'll say this, and this is probably going to make me sound bad, but it's legit. I haven't forgot who I am and where I came from. Do you understand what I'm
I
saying?
love that. Look,
Some of us get somewhere and we forget food stamps used to be in a coupon book and you had to go get your block cheese at the next corner and it made the best grilled cheese, but it bound you up like the devil. You know what I'm saying? I remember what it was like. As a matter of fact, I was one of the first African Americans to win the Voice of Democracy contest in the entire state of Georgia. And that's actually when I got introduced to politics and became a Republican. And I remember when I won that contest, they were so upset that a black girl beat the white guy that literally when I went to go deliver my speech in a predominantly, and I won't name this city because they got better, a predominantly racist city that's here in Georgia, I was handed a switchblade and was told that if it got bad, couldn't make it to the police car. So I'm not the kind of person. And when it was announced in my school that I had won, a race riot broke out. They hung a disabled black guy from the toilet, from the bathroom, and put my name on it. I got a KKK indictment. I haven't forgot those days. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like it's not a histrionic lesson for me. It is a part of my current day history. I got to experience discrimination. So I haven't forgot where I came from, nor have I forgot the plights. Simply because I am a Republican does not mean that I subscribe to or that I adhere to. And I will tell you, the vast majority of our party does not dispute that there is discriminatory behavior, that there are discriminatory systems. We dispute as to what it is. We don't believe that it's an actual system. We believe it's the people in there that operates those systems, that create those discriminations, and that we don't have to throw out the system. We need to throw the people out. That's what we believe.
Mm.
We don't believe that there is a systemic, like we did in the civil rights movement, like we did during Reconstruction, like we did in uh, the 1619 project era. We don't believe that there is a systemic, like the government in and of itself is. We believe that people who are at the helm of the government are racist. People at the helm of the system are racist. And if you want done with it, get rid of the people. We don't have to get rid of America.
Mm.
That's our general premise.
Mm. And that's a mouthful. That's a mouthful, because now I'm thinking, like, even with, and we, again, we're going to stay away from diving into the issues, because
Yeah.
I want people to really see that the two-party system and the division
Mhm.
is not good for us as Americans. That is the biggest takeaway that I want people to hear and see with you and I having this conversation this morning.
Yes, ma'am. We can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And
your
that's
mom,
gotta stop.
it's
It's
gotta
gotta
stop.
stop. Because I don't hate you and you don't hate me. We talk and we get along just fine, even though we don't agree with everything. And
Mhm.
that's the beautiful thing. It's like we were talking yesterday, and when I said to you, I was like, listen, we just siblings having sibling rivalry. That's all it is. We're still in the same family. We just don't agree on certain things. And I believe that if we would put aside our vitriol and just get back to the core rudimentary things that unite us, we could come to a resolution. We could do it. But when you have things like what transpired in the 2022 primary, I think it's becoming more clear that what we have is not a us versus them situation. It's not. What we have is a host of individuals that are enjoying their lust for power and their quest for ambition more than the actual voice of the people and what we want and need. And it's not a Republican issue, it's not a Democrat issue, it's a people issue. You are telling people that you sit down, shut up, and do what I tell you. You're not hearing what we say, because the discrepancy that occurred this time, it was found in the Democrat ticket. So it's not just Republicans hollering, hey, there's something going on. They're doing it to everybody. Nobody is having a fair, free election.
Mhm.
Nobody is. And I venture to say that's been going on for quite some time.
I know you're ready to go there, but I kind of I want to take us there a little slower. We going there. I promise we're going there. And audience, y'all hold on. I just really, before we go there with these elections and midterms 2022 here in Georgia, I really want you to hear and see that we must get beyond the division of party politics.
Yes,
This woman is a Republican. I am a Democrat. No matter what y'all want to say about me, I
that's
am a
right.
Democrat. Like the same, I'm sure they say the same about you.
Yep.
And this is what this is what reaching across the aisle looks like, where
Yes.
we may not agree on the issues, and we don't on many issues, and it's okay that we don't
Yep.
agree, but we will find that common ground. But let's
Yes.
start where we are.
That's
And
right.
where we are right now is that this division
Hmm.
is causing this whole nation to literally implode. Like
Yes.
our house is on fire here in this country. Our this nation is on fire. And they have us pitted against each other as if this is
Hmm.
political entertainment. Like
Exactly.
this is political entertainment. This is like a sport. Let's see if
Beautifully said.
it's like, let's see if we could get, them fighting while we are out here doing what we want to do. Like you just said, Saria, this is bigger than us.
Absolutely.
And
That's so brilliantly said.
the most dangerous part of this conversation is the fact that we're having the conversation, and that is not what they want us to do.
Not at all. They don't. But I have found you to be, and in most people, very intelligent, absolutely sincere, totally authentic. Your focal point, and most of the people in the district, which we already established as Democrat, I was so impressed. Even my perspective changed because we've got this thing built up in, oh, they just want to destroy America. Oh, they hate everything about America. Oh, they're just going to attack and do that. Even though we had disagreements, some of them got heated. We still sat at the table and had coffee, and we still got tea, and we still got our Coca-Colas, and, met up later on and hung out. And I think that's the threat. The threat is finding out that we're not as different as you think we are.
Mm-hmm.
Finding out that there really isn't this hate, that it's being bred and being facilitated, that it doesn't really exist. And I think that's the threat of you and I having a dialogue, because it's amazing that we're on the polarizing sides of the aisle, like extremely polarizing. You would think we couldn't sit down and talk to each other. I mean, according to the media, according to the propaganda, according to the messaging, you would think there's no way you and I could have a dialogue because we represent the staunchness of our parties.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We do. We represent that. But I enjoy talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
I love bouncing ideas off of you. You would be amazed if you could hear us talk at how a lot of collaboration is getting done, even though we're polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think that if we can learn to just lay down the rhetoric and just see each other and take each other at face value. And I know that's difficult when you're dealing with politics because everybody lies. And the ones that don't lie, they fudge, and the ones that don't fudge, they just kind of misrepresent. And so it's one of those type arenas in politics where you can't trust nobody. I mean, just
Mm-hmm.
being
Mm-hmm.
honest, you can't, because they say one thing, do another.
Mm-hmm.
And when the bottom line hits, people just advocate for their own. So trusting politicians or trusting those that are in the political arena is difficult. It's difficult to do that because everybody is thinking like we were talking earlier. There's a certain risk factor that comes with us having this dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a certain risk factor because you have people in your party that's going to say, you just turned coat. You the Vernon Jones now. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I've got people in my party that's going to say, oh, I knew she was a closet Democrat. I knew she was just out to get, you know what I'm saying? We have a risk factor in having this conversation. But what we have to decide is that the wholeness of the nation, and when I say the nation, I'm not talking about the governmental structures. I'm talking about you citizens that go to the gas pump, that goes to the grocery store, that has to live in the communities. We're the nation.
Mm-hmm.
We as citizens have got to get to the place to where that is more valuable than even our party lines. That's more valuable. You being safe, Tamara, you being able to be heard is just as valuable as me being safe and me being heard. I don't have to like what you have to say, but I will fight tooth and nail for you to say it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's where we have to get to. We have to get to that place of where be grown up enough. You know what I'm saying? Be grown enough to handle opposition without having to suppress somebody. I don't have to suppress you. I don't have to dominate you. You have every right as I do. You do. And that's what we have to start rallying around is the right to be heard, the right to articulate. And because if we do that, we might find out we're pretty much kind of on the same page. We just have a different map to get there. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm, mm, mm. And that is the root of this conversation, us getting to a place where our voices are heard,
Mhm.
our, you're entitled to your opinion. And again, like you just said it so perfectly and so beautifully. So that is what I want people to hear and see at the root of this. that this is about us as Americans,
Mm-hmm.
putting our issues are at the forefront. This is a global society that we live in now, right? This is
That's right.
everything is beyond us, but America at its core has to take care of Americans.
Come on. Can you just say that again for the people in the back? I don't think they heard you. I don't think they heard you. That's probably the most impactful statement that I've heard in a long time. Because
Mhm,
that's fact. That's truth. Absolute truth.
mhm.
Okay, I didn't mean to cut you off. That just spoke to my soul. That spoke right down to the depth of my soul. My Holy Ghost said amen to that.
Oh, that's where we are. And that is, and again, the division. I don't want to fight like this. This is absolutely getting us nowhere as a
No,
nation. It is getting us nowhere. And I'm like, are we winning or losing? Because I feel like we, the people, are losing.
we are.
We're losing so much ground while we're watching things happen around us. And I feel like we have no control over it.
I mean, that's the appearance that they're given by some of the tactics that's doing it. When I say they, it's both sides. My side,
Mhm,
your side, both sides are
mhm.
doing it. Nobody hands is clean. And when we can recognize that nobody's hands is clean, then we'll be all right. Neither one
Say
of them
it.
is.
Say it.
And so my thing is like you were just saying now, and I'm just still stuck on that because people don't get it. They just don't understand. Listen, we're losing.
Mhm,
We are losing. And have you noticed this, Tamara? Because I've been watching, I've only been heavy in the political arena 4 years. Okay. So
mhm,
I'm a corporate girl, I'm from corporate America. I've been a Republican my whole life, but I've only been part of the machine for the last 4 years. And have you noticed that as long as they keep us bickering amongst each other, no issues ever get addressed?
mm-mm.
No issue ever gets addressed. Doesn't happen. When you look at the propaganda on both of the sides, oh, we got to beat Joe Biden. Oh, we got to beat Donald Trump. Oh, we can't have Stacey Abrams. Oh, we got to have Kim. Nobody ever deals with the actual issues. That in my district, you got kids going to school in septic tanks where the ground is raw sewage, where they have signs on the light switches that says don't touch can get electrocuted. You've got mold that's growing all over the school that kids are getting sick. That's where you sending your kids to school, but you want to talk about fight Abrams and delivering Kim. I've got parents right now, several cases that I'm working on. They're Democrats, I'm Republican. But I'm a mom. I got a 6-year-old, and I'm gonna tell you now, you come from my kid, in hell will you lift up your eyes. I'm just gonna tell you, it's gonna happen. You better know Jesus as your Lord and personal Savior because it's about to be a personal introduction. That's what's gonna happen.
You
That's how it's gonna happen. Don't touch my baby. But you've got parents who kids are being assaulted, being bullied, sexually harassed. You don't hear that conversation that in Georgia there's an upsurge across the state
Mhm,
of harassment, bullying, and sexual harassment of kids. Now you hear CRT, you hear 1619 Project, but you don't hear about what's actually happening to the kids
mhm,
because we have gotten so consumed with this divisive argument that issues are being overlooked and issues are being ignored. You can argue about CRT next week. You can argue about all that other stuff later. But what about that mama's kid who was just sexually harassed? Can we focus on that? What about that septic filled school? You can argue all day long about philosophy and what's taught in there, but that's not protecting that child from getting sick and being harassed. The issues are getting lost in the debate. The things that are impactful to the individuals are getting lost in this whole you've got to hate the Democrat and you got to hate the Republican, and anything that a Democrat says, you can't support it. And anything that a Republican says, you can't support it. You need to
mhm,
just get down to if they're a D or an R. And if they're a D, Saria, ignore them. If it's an R, Tamara, ignore them. There's
mhm.
nothing that's left to be said other than a letter. Now, you know what? They did that in Nazi Germany. They labeled people. And they didn't care if they were parents. They didn't care if they were human beings. They cared about their nationality. They did that same thing in Africa in the apartheid movement. They didn't care that these are human beings. They didn't care that these are living, breathing persons. They followed what a label said. They did that to us here in America. They didn't acknowledge our humanity and they did whatever. When are we going to start bypassing the label and start looking at the person? We all deserve life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We all deserve that.
And this again is the core. This is what I want people to take away, that we have to get beyond this bickering. We have to get beyond the fighting, the pitting of us against one another. And let's figure out where the center is. And let's do what it takes to make America what it needs to be for all of us. That
All
is
of us.
all of us. All of us. So before we dive in, because I want to give Lynn the rest of the broadcast to as much of these midterms as we can. But before I do that, I know my reparations family is following, and you know, I'm a reparationist. I have been fighting in the 2020 election. I've always talked about race, racism, and race relations. That has always been the root of me as a candidate, making sure that, you know, we don't continue to have people's voices not be heard. So I've always talked very boldly about race, racism, and race relations. But in the 2020 election, I took it up a notch and I was fighting for reparations, and in 2022. So that is who I am and that is what I do. But let me tell you, my reparations family, because I want to use this as an example right now, that we don't have to agree on all the issues. We have to meet people and meet these issues and meet the situations and the circumstances where we are in the moment, right? And Saria and I had just a bit of a conversation prior. Saria is I'm
Anti.
gonna let you say it. I'm gonna
I
let you
am
say it.
anti 110% against reparations. Anti completely.
And we're gonna put a pin in that.
I was
'Cause
going to say, I wanted to qualify it because I
yeah,
don't believe numerical. I believe that there's other ways, but I do not believe in reparations.
okay. But see, I wanted my reparations family to see this and see that, okay, we're gonna put a pin in that. And this is
Right.
an issue that we need to come back to. You know, there's so many issues where we may
Right.
not see, and we may not be on the same page. However, right now here in Georgia, we're gonna set our issues aside.
Amen.
We're gonna set these issues aside because these midterms here in 2022, when I saw my race, Saria, I'm just gonna say it. I just stopped looking. I just said, you know, that night, but prior, on election night, of course, Saria, this was race number 5 for me. And on election night, I
Thank you
knew.
for doing that. Thank you for doing that. That's a support and a tenacity that means you're convicted. That means, you
Mhm.
know, to go up 5 times. Yeah, I applaud
Thank
you for
you.
that.
Thank you,
I do.
Saria. Thank you. So that night, God, I knew me and God had to have our time, and I just didn't want to look, but I peeked in, and I peeked in a couple times at the numbers as they were quote unquote coming in. And Saria, when I saw what was happening, I said, okay, I'm going to bed. I went
I
to
lost my
bed.
cool. I was on a broadcast. We were reported, and I lost my cool. I had to leave. I had to leave.
I, I,
I
I,
said things on the air you should say as a leader.
I said, you know what? I'm not gonna watch this. So I wake up the next morning, Saria, and see the numbers, and not just my race. And here, as a Democrat, where it kind of went, my radar was like, okay, if it was just my race,
Hmm.
I would have been like, okay.
Hmm.
But when I looked from the top of the ticket where I was in this U.S. Senate race and traveled down that Democratic ballot, and I saw all those races that had the same kind of discrepancy, I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking at, but what I do know is this is not right.
It's mathematically improbable. I mean, when you look at it, take away the conspiracy theories and all the ideologies, you can venture to. I mean, it's a human nature for us to quest for answers, and when answers don't present themselves, we will create our own because we have a necessity to be satisfied. And so, because we have this innate need for justice, we will do whatever it takes to feel justified. So, take away all of the explanations that occurred. It is mathematically improbable for the results of that election to happen the way it did, especially when you have concrete evidence that something happened, whether you believe it was manipulation and nefarious behavior, or whether you believe that it was a technical error, or whether you believe that it was a human error. It didn't mesh. It wasn't right. And I don't understand the resistance to getting the real answer. What's the resistance?
So let's back up and let's talk about what's the resistance. So let me tell you. So I started my political journey in 2014, 2016, 2018. I ran for the Georgia State Senate.
Okay.
2020 and 2022, I ran for the US Senate. So I started paying attention to politics back in like 2013 here in Georgia and just dived into these races. And that's where I've been ever since. So those three races to the state senate, what I learned in that, I learned party politics in a way.
Mhm.
I saw party politics in a way in those first three races that I'm clear. I'm clear about party politics. That ain't a game that I play. I don't play that game well at all. And hence why I'm on the outside of it. I am a Democrat, but I've coined myself an independent Democrat because I am
Okay.
independent in my thinking. Like I don't want to be pigeonholed to the way this party moves. I'm not gonna just do it because it's a D and I gotta do it. No, I'm
Mhm.
not gonna do that. And my constituents and anybody that ever voted for me, they don't even want me to do that. So that has worked for me. So that's what I learned in those
That's me
first
too.
three races was party politics. What I learned in these last two races was the process.
Yes.
This whole voting, this whole process is where I
Yes.
learned something specific to that. So going back to 2018 here in Georgia, that's when I first noticed, wait a
The
minute,
process.
the process. So in 2018, when Stacey Abrams didn't win, I wasn't sure what I was witnessing, and many of us across the state wasn't sure, particularly Democrats, what we were witnessing. But it was something that we didn't understand. And I'm gonna tell you, the lights have been off to the Democrats. Democrats statewide. I say this and I say this, I'm gonna say it out loud. It's like we've been in the dark and somebody has now turned the lights on. And I don't know what I'm looking at, but all I know is I was in the dark and now the lights are on and I'm like looking around like, what the hell is going on with this process? So in 2018, we wasn't sure about what was going on. 2020 with Donald Trump, we still wasn't sure about what was going on, but the Democrats and the Democratic Party was just glad to have Joe Biden. So whatever was going on,
Go ahead, my friend.
whatever was going on, the Democrats was glad for whatever happened. They were just happy. So again, the lights were off. The lights were off again. 2022, for me as a candidate and candidates down that ballot, the lights are turned on. And we're looking around at this election like, what the hell? And I'm going to tell you,
That's what
I'm
we
going to
said.
tell
What the
you,
hell?
what the hell? And I'm going to tell you, the Democrats now, those of us who are forthcoming, and we are coming because we have to now speak to this because we again were in the dark. We didn't know. And whatever the Republicans know or have figured out, y'all are light years ahead of us.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to share.
I know. I'm gonna give you the floor. I'm gonna give you the floor, and you can have it after that. I'm just gonna get my spill out right now because I really want. I want Democrats to hear me. And when I say we didn't know, we didn't know. And look, you can hear me now trying to find words to just like even I can't even describe what I'm seeing. It's like, but let me tell you this. Now that we have this ballot now, and these numbers look the way they look, and the lights are on, we're looking for answers. We're looking for answers. We're looking for information. We want to understand, and we're not going to be quiet. We're not going to be silent.
Amen.
And we're going to share this with other Democrats because y'all don't know. And we just finding out. So the floor is yours.
I wanted to say something, Tamara. I see. This is why we need this dialogue, because I've been trying to figure out for years how to explain how we got this far. Because for us, our party tends to be more cognitive. We investigate and trust nobody. I mean, that's why people say that. Oh, we're so mean and stuff like. No, we just don't trust nobody. So we're gonna investigate you from the electron, protons, and neurons of the situation. We're going all the way to the cellular structure, the atomic structure. Um, but you just illustrated something that got my brain to thinking. As long as people are getting what they won't pay attention to how they got it. When you go back to 2018, we had suspicions. And when I say we, I'm speaking as Republicans because that's who I represent. We had suspicions, but we got what we wanted. 2020, we went in with suspicions. If you'll look at the record before the 2020 elections, we were hollering, don't use Dominion. We don't want Dominion. Why are you using Dominion? We Republicans were saying that. But when we didn't get what we wanted, that's when we wanted to take the initiative to expose. And then like you guys had suspicion in 2018, didn't really take the initiative until you got what you wanted in there. And I'm beginning to think to myself that is it willful ignorance on our side? That as long as we're getting what we want, Republicans get what we want, we'll turn a blind eye. Democrats get what they want, we'll turn a blind eye. But the danger of turning a blind eye is that everybody's blind and eventually you're going to run into a wall. And that's what happened primary 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Because now neither one of us got what we wanted.
Say that because look. The Republican ticket looks strange. The Democratic ticket looks
strange. So that makes you think, who's really pulling the strings here? Because neither one of us got what we wanted. Neither one of us did. And so I'm glad you said that, because that's got me thinking. Is that the big deal? It's like, because you know what the scriptures does say, that my people perish for a lack of knowledge. It didn't say it was because of politics. It didn't say it was about evil. It says that the ignorance of people will cause them to perish. And it makes me think that the fact that we've been willfully ignorant, or the fact that we've been precluded from information, because some of us just didn't have the information. You know what I'm saying? That is what's causing the angst that we have now. That's what's causing the whole feeling of this is wrong, but I can't put my finger on what it is. That's what's causing that. And that's why I said now, this is why I applaud this effort. And like I said to y'all, that's a risk factor. Some of you guys that follow Tamara, y'all going to look at her side eye because she's got this staunch Republican that she's sitting there talking to like they the best of friends. We are friends. And I will fight for her right. And she will fight for my right to say what we need to say. Our friendship and relationship is not predicated on us agreeing on everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just predicated on us finding that mutual ground of respect. Mm-hmm. And this is what happened in 2022. We all got disrespected. That's what happened. Because my mama told me a long time ago that if somebody will do it for you, they will do it to you. So we had this instance and opportunity where the Republican Party was getting what they wanted. 2020, we didn't. Now we got 2022 and nobody got what they wanted. Not anybody. Everybody is side-eyeing. Everybody is suspicious. Do you get what I'm saying? It is. And it's because we are now uncovering the reality. The reality is there are those on both sides of the aisle
Mhm.
who has lost perspective. And the only thing that's going to bring the perspective back is the everyday citizen. And the only way that we're going to be able to bring that perspective back is that we have got to put aside our petty squabblings.
Mhm.
It's not that what divides us is not significant to us. It's about priority. Right
Mm.
now, your plight is not going to get heard because something bigger and magnanimous is capsizing it. And it's
Mhm.
being allowed to do that because we're fighting each other when
Mhm.
we should be fighting the enemy. And so, what I wanted to just say to you guys is what we're doing, our collaboration is centered around just two things. Just two. We want a hand recount of the entire ballot, Democrat and Republican. We want it all
Mhm.
because we have proof. This is not conjecture. This is not Trump deranged syndrome. This is not Abrams should be governor syndrome. This is categoric proof that that machine and your ballot can be manipulated.
Mhm.
That race in DeKalb was not an error. The entire race was overturned. Who
Mhm.
was declared winner was not the winner. You are seeing anomalies throughout the entire state when they are checking different ballots. Judge Amy Totenberg, before we even had the 2020 election, said that it was prone to irregularities and inaccuracies. When Cullifer brought it up to fight Raffensperger, an independent study was ordered, and Halderman came back and said, this machine is inaccurate. Now you got DeKalb County and Fulton County corroborating that with evidence. So any sane person, whether say you got Republicans saying it was crossover vote, crossover didn't make Broussard come off of that ballot and didn't cause Alexander to be declared the victor when it was Sears. That didn't cause that. Okay, it didn't cause that. It was a programming error. Then that further validates that you can't trust that machine. It was the superintendent. I'm just giving you the excuses we've got. It was a superintendent endeavoring to delete Broussard from the ballot because he withdrew. Well, then why did it alter the other votes? Machines are inanimate objects. They read and do as they are programmed to do. So what'd you program it to do? I'm just asking. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just simply saying, because I'm a fact and figure girl. I can have a theory all day long, but if there's no fact, it's just an imagination in my head. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But you have presented me with one thing that is absolutely certain. That was an unreliable election. That is irrefutable. That is not debatable. That is not controversial. It was unreliable. So, for the sake of accuracy, if for no other reason,
Mhm.
count the daggum ballots on both ballots. And see, my party got upset with me because I didn't challenge my race in particular. What good would that do? That's self serving. When I look and I see that it is mathematically improbable for 159 counties to go one way,
Mhm.
when I sit down and I look and I see on my Democrat side a totally upended and upturned election,
Mhm.
I can venture to say what the motive is all day long. But you count those ballots and we don't have to guess. We don't have to guess. We
Mhm.
don't have to conjecture and we don't have to feel like it's futile. We don't have to feel like we don't matter. Whether we go vote or not, they're going to do what they have to do. And they're going to do what they want to do. We don't have to do that. We can come to a place in Georgia and the nation as a whole where we don't have to question whether or not we're heard. Because a lot of the divisiveness and a lot of the vitriol is because we feel unheard.
Mhm.
I mean, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
People scream. What was it Tupac said? The best thing he said was it he said, watch, I misquote him, but that's my boy. When Tupac said, you got somebody that's wealthy and they're eating good and I'm hungry, I'm gonna knock on the door and I'm gonna ask. And then I'm gonna beg. And then I'm gonna plead. Pretty soon I'm gonna bust that door down and take it.
Mm-hmm.
The reason you got people that's busting doors down is because I done asked you. I done begged you. I done rationalized with you and you ain't listening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I tell people all the time, even on my side, why are you upset and act clueless as to why there's been an increase in demonstrations and violence? You haven't been listening.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's translating over into the election itself. So what we're saying is put aside all of the ideas and the conspiracies, count the votes. And because the machine is at the cruise of what makes us question or suspicious, don't use it in November. Don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we're saying. Count the votes, both primaries, not just Republicans, not just Democrats. We want the whole ballot from governor to janitor. You understand what I'm saying? Count the votes. It's going to cost a lot of money. You have no idea how much money and resources were consumed in the litigations of 2018 and 2020.
Mm-hmm.
It was more fiscally responsible for you to just count the daggum ballots and get a clear and concise effort. Well, I just think it's ramblers and sore losers. You know what? Sears could have said the same thing, but she was the one that won. So I'm not scared. Prove me wrong. If I lost, I lost. That just means they didn't want me. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay. That's your bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have done good. That's your bad. Okay. But the reality of the circumstance is you can't say anybody's a loser because you got a raise. And listen, Sears was number 3 on May 24. When they turned those tallies in from that machine, she was number 3.
Mm-hmm.
But when they hand counted it, she was number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, am I a sore loser? Put your money where your mouth is. Count the ballot. What you scared of? What you're scared of is that if it was nefarious, you're going to get caught. And if it was human error, you're going to have to fix it. And some of us who think we got the answer to all the world's problems and got our chest all poked out might have to eat a little humble pie and recognize you don't know as much as you think you do. So prove us wrong. Count the ballot. I don't care what the reason is. Oh, they stole it. Okay, count the ballot. Oh, it was a technical error. Okay, count the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
Make up any excuse you want to, but the one thing you can't refute is it wasn't reliable. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't accurate. So count the ballot and don't use the machine again because that's stupid. And that's what we're pushing for. There's no other agenda. I know that's hard to believe because it's politics. There's
Mm-hmm.
no other agenda.
Mm-mm.
That's it.
That's it.
Just count it. That's it.
And don't use those machines again.
No. You know, you got it. The machine was at the cruise of the argument in 2018. It was at the cruise of the argument in 2020. Now it's 2022. First time, shame on me. Second time is shame on you. Third time is stupid. Don't do it again.
Say it.
That's insanity.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolute insanity. That is just the definition of insanity.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the same thing, expecting different results. Lay that thing to rest. And those of us who are in technology, which I happen to be, that's your exit clause
Mm-hmm.
because it was purchased and designed to produce security in our elections and it has failed and it has faltered. Get our money back and go get something else.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Nothing else.
Nothing else.
Nope. Then we can go back to arguing later.
Yes. We will go back to the issues and fighting.
We'll go back to that later.
We go back to that later. But right now, we as Georgians, I don't care what side of the aisle you fall on.
That's right.
I don't care independent. I don't care libertarian. I don't give a, it don't matter where you fall here in the state of Georgia. The ask is that we come together and demand
Mm-hmm.
a recount of this election, both sides of the ballot,
Mm-hmm.
both sides, Republican, Democrat, both sides, statewide, recount this entire election, and let's not ever use these machines again.
Ever put it to rest. And I'll just say this. I hadn't said this to Tamara, but I talked this over with my husband, who's an independent. Here's the reality of the circumstance is people say, oh, well, it's just politics as usual. There's always been fraud. I mean, even our governor said that in debate, which was just classic case stupid. Why do you say, well, there's always fraud? Really? That's what you're gonna say? That's how you're gonna lead okay, we won't talk about that. But I'm just saying that was I was like, oh. I was like, bruh, really? Really? That's what you gonna say. But anyway, even though there's issues in politics, here's the reality of this moment. The reality of this moment is you may not get another chance. And that's not a fear factor or tactic. It's really not. You have got to, at some point, like when people were saying to me, Saria, don't do this interview with that Democrat. They're going to think you're a Democrat crossover. Don't sit down and talk to her in a public format. Keep it on the phone. Saria, you have very high ambitions in the party. The party loves you. They respect what you have to say. You're setting yourself up for issues. Here's the reality of the circumstance. If you can take a primary where you don't get to decide on the Republican ticket, I don't get to decide on the Democrat ticket, there's no real argument being had and corrupted. What you gonna do when we get to general? You are putting brother and sister against each other. See, I went against a Republican. I didn't go against a Democrat. You went against a Democrat. You didn't go against a Republican. If they'll pit you against each other and pit us against each other, they're no longer dividing us across the aisle. They're dividing us from within.
You better preach. Look, don't make me get up and run out around this room.
But do you get what I'm saying? This is what I'm
Yes,
saying.
that's
They're
exactly what they've
emboldened.
done.
They're emboldened. So we all know what happens. Look at America now that we polarize. We can't even talk to each other. If you publicly say, oh, when I say, oh, I love Tamara, she's a Democrat, ain't she? And you get what I'm saying? Oh, I like Saria. I love Saria. Oh, she's a Republican, ain't she? They got us divided to where you can't even say you like each other. And that's across the aisle. Now they're dividing us amongst ourselves.
Perfect example.
What do you think is the next step? You don't have another shot. So it is okay. I tell people all the time, you can suspect me all you want to, trust but verify. But what you don't want to do is wager your livelihood, your future on a whim. You know, for those that are believers, and if you're not, I respect your right too. If somebody ever comes at you for what you believe in, call me. I will march in the street with you. You understand what I'm saying? I'll give you resources too. I might not serve Allah, but you can. Do you know what I'm saying? So, but I'm a believer. What my scriptures teach me is that a house divided won't stand. It won't. So why are they now trying to collapse us within our own house? What's the real agenda? And that's why I'm saying to you guys, you don't have to trust me. I'm not asking you that. But you know, when Jesus came on the scenes, the people who had studied him all their life were the ones that put him up to be crucified. The ones that read and talk about him couldn't recognize him when they saw him. All I'm saying to Republicans and to Democrats, do you recognize what you see? Are you willing to crucify this nation and this state because of an opinion and appearance? Is that what you're willing to do? So it's not about whether you agree with me on the issue. Doesn't matter. But you can agree that something happened that was absolutely cataclysmic and it was absolutely transformative as Sears and Alexander. Let's just count the ballot. Let's just throw out the machine. Let's just be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can get to the issues that are actually relevant and necessary for the advancement of the American people and the Georgia citizens. So we can put the focus back where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Schools, neighborhoods, infrastructure, entrepreneurial spirit. Um, we got a lot that we need to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we put the focus back where it needs to be? I'm as sick of the election integrity conversation as you are. So let's just lay it to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Count the vote. Get rid of the machine. Next.
So we can get back to work in this nation. Because right now we can't. And I want Democrats to hear that again, back to what we were saying at the top of the hour, the division right now, set it aside. I don't care if that person is Republican, whatever, set that division aside because your vote, your voice must count before we
Yes,
can even solve any of our state's problems or our nation's problems. If your voice and your vote doesn't count, we will never solve the problems here in Georgia or this nation.
that's right.
So let's get to the root of this right now. Right now is these midterms.
Hmm.
Let's get to the root of it. Recount this election, the entirety, the entire election, recount it, and let's get rid of these machines.
Absolutely.
It's that simple. You have a petition we need to make sure is in the thread. I will be sure to make sure that it's in the chat, in the thread. Everybody will have it. You can read it for yourself. You can
Hmm.
share it, please, amongst others. And let's demand. We're not asking. You just said Tupac. I love that.
I love Tupac. That's my boy. I think he was a prophet.
Oh,
I think he was.
he was very prophetic in a lot of things he
Yes,
said.
he
Now he
was.
really was. But you threw me off there, Tupac. But yeah, we're demanding. We're not asking. We done ask. We done beg. And again, Democrats, we have been in the dark. And I'm gonna tell you, I too have been in the dark. And now the light is on. And again, these last two elections, the lights came on, and the lights are on. And I'm looking around like, what the hell has happened?
Hmm.
And something happened. And in
Hmm.
order to get beyond what has happened, recount, recount this entire 2022 midterm election. Recount it and get rid of these damn machines.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
Saria, this has been phenomenal. It has been just what we prayed before we came into
Yeah.
this. This has been just what God needed it to be. I pray this lands in the hearts and in the minds and the ears and the souls of people that can really help us
Yes.
make sure that this happens. Because again, this is about our voices being heard, our voices being heard, and those votes, every single vote counting
Counted. As cast, not the way you want it, but
as
the way
cast,
we cast it.
as cast. Saria, give us some last words. It's on you.
I just being transparent with y'all. I just hope that those who are listening that we would live. I'm just gonna be transparent, y'all. We have got to honor each other as human beings first.
Mhm.
It's super important that we do that, and I know it's difficult, especially there's a lot that would divide us. But I really want us to start viewing each other as human beings first.
Mhm.
I think a lot of the world's problems would get solved if we did that.
Mhm.
And I don't hate you. I hope you don't hate me. It's okay if you do, but I hope you don't. And I hope that you understand that at this day and this hour, we have got to recognize the need for each other.
Mhm.
I mean, that's what the bottom line is we've got to recognize the need for each other because regardless of how we feel, we still got to share this America.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but I grew up on the cusp of a lot of vitriol and hate. And my mom was one of the first in the integrated schools. And so I've heard the stories and seen the dog bites in her. And I had ancestors that were part of the movement. And so I know what it's like to just theoretically from their stories to live in such a politically tumultuous time. And we're seeing that again. And I don't want that for my kid. I don't want that for your kid. There's a way to disagree without creating unsafety and without creating this cocktail of chaos. And so I'm asking you guys to just let us not repeat history. Let us learn the lesson that it wasn't until we came together that we saw change. It may have been a Republican movement for the civil rights movement, but it was a Democrat president that signed it into law. If we don't come together, we won't see the change we're all fighting for. And if the first step is just saying a fair, free election, then let's take that first step and let God lead us the rest of the way. So that's all that I'm asking from you guys is let the first step be, I hear you, you hear me, now hear us. And then we can go from there.
There it is. Saria, Ivy, I just want to say I appreciate you, and I am looking forward to getting us to this place where we are, we're on the right side of this. We're on the other side of this. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
This has been phenomenal. So stay with me. Hold on, everybody.
When we come to Washington in this campaign, we're coming to get our check. Young prodigies. Grow. Free.
Reparations, Martin said we coming for our check. Reparations, say it loud, 1, 2, mic check. Cream, cash rules everything around me. Dream, my legacy, you can't stop me. Coming for our 40 acres, ain't y'all 40 in our paper.
Kicking the door, coming for our 40 acres and more. 6.4 trillion. Miss that no, we fought the Civil War. We came from the poor.
Start from the bottom, we still on the floor. We pray to the Lord.
Amen.
Picking our cotton, our fingers are sore.
Straight out the underground, escaping from slavery. The only cemeteries that we had were the trees. Watching our bodies while they glue in the breeze. Thinking to the north side to get free.
That way came from slavery. Where's on the mirror once you sit on me? Put her head on the door, but the world won't scheme. Stick to the north side to get free.
Reparations, Martin said we coming for our check. Reparations, say it loud, 1, 2, mic check. Cream, cash rules everything around me. Dream, my legacy, you can't stop me. Coming for our 40 acres, ain't y'all 40 in our paper.
We taking them back. Putting Pettis Bridge on the map. Police came with the strap. That Sunday was bloody, no cap.
Stop capping.
Speaking of cap, Kaepernick taking knees at the flag. Where my justice at? We built this nation, better give me them racks. All fat, just a match and a little bit of gasoline. 4 girls got bombed back in 63.
400 years, yeah, we still ain't free. We rise, taking it.
Kaepernick.
Reparations, Martin said we coming for our check. Reparations, say it loud, 1, 2, mic check. Cream, cash rules everything around me. Dream, my legacy, you can't stop me.
Coming for our 40 acres, ain't y'all 40 in our paper.
We stuck in the trap, with no shoes, trying to pull up bootstraps. Increasing the gap, wealth got bigger, so we had to adapt. Discriminated cause we black. I know it worth more than I know it's a fact. They tryna feed scraps, strike me on board so we can't come back.
30 years ago on April 19, Yusef and Triremic chemical read.
If it happened to them, think it happened to me. It's